So thank you everybody for coming this evening. We are going to go ahead and get started. Please eat as much pizza and as much everything down here as possible. We do not want to take it away. The fewer boxes we have to take away, we are happier. Again, if you are just walking in, please sign in to the sign-in sheet. It is currently up here with Katie. And if you are online, please go ahead and put your name and unit into the Zoom. If you have questions on Zoom, we are going to have a couple people in-house looking at the chat. Could I get a raise of hands who is going to be looking at chat? Interesting. Okay. Cool. We are going to, thank you, Senator Viblock. And if anybody else notices that if someone online has a question and we haven't noticed them, please raise your hand and you can speak for them if they're okay with that. And other than that, yes. After that, I think we're ready to go. We are going to first do a call to order. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Do I hear a second? Thank you. We are going to first suspend the agenda, even though we just approved it, because we need to do things in order. And so that Julia, our student body president, can get to her next meeting. So do I hear a motion to approve that? Do I hear a second? Thank you. Julia, would you like to sit down? Cool, you are all ready. One second. You can go whenever you want.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I know we're getting close to the end of the semester, so things are starting to ramp up. But just briefly wanted to go over some recent events and initiatives that student government, undergraduate student government has been working on. And then I'll kind of talk about what we've been pivoting to working on as we wrap up the end of the administration. And so here are 4 events that are, some of them are going on this week and some of them kind of already happened. Our first one, our vice president is actually here, but he has a initiative coming up on Wednesday, which is a Hot Hill Walk/Run, which is a part of the Good Living initiative that his office is sponsoring. The other event that we've been working on is an election decompression event. We know that last week's results, there's a lot of feelings on campus right now. And so we just wanted to provide an opportunity so that students can kind of come together, enjoy some pizza, and maybe talk about any things that they're nervous about going into this next year. And we also sponsored cup covers that we partnered with different bars on Franklin Street to offer cup covers to people who don't want their drink tampered with. You're able to put that lid over there. So we were excited to do that. And then we had a multicultural festival on last Friday, which is really great and I think much needed for our community across campus. So we can go to the next slide. And so what my office has been working on lately is the Meal Swipe donation plan. I've talked about it to you all before, but we're advocating for a Meal Swipe donation plan, which essentially would allow students to donate swipes to other peers on campus. And we're pretty excited about the stage of where we're at right now. Lots of administrators have been working on this and also collaborating with us, which has been really exciting. And we also were able to hear from Javier, who was a former ECU student body president, about how that system was set up at ECU. And so we're very confident that this could come to fruition, hopefully next fall. And so with that, we'll be tabling at the next Monday, actually, on November 18th in the pit from 11 to 1 p.m., trying to get more survey responses on that survey. And then there will also be a partnership with DoorDash so that students can get some free food, and also hear from a professor that will be speaking a little bit about the importance of food insecurity. And then we'll continue to table at Ramsgiving on November 21st. And then so some general branch updates. I know the VP sitting there in the back, but I don't know if you wanted to share a little bit about the Good Living Initiative. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
Most definitely. Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, we'll just speak on it. So one thing that our office has decided to focus on in relation to the overall administrative goals of the Taylor administration is around what is being called the Good Living Initiative. And it sort of centers this idea that at Carolina, we want students to live a fulfilling, emotional, spiritual, physical, all the things life, and that connects to this ability to thrive and to produce and to go out and be better Tar Heels and otherwise in the various spaces. So focusing on the person holistically, because that allows you to produce and be the best version of yourself in all the spaces you go into. And so to that point, all of what we've been doing ties back to the ultimate mission or vision that has sort of been adopted by our office and approved in accordance with the administrative goals. So one thing that we are doing, we started with sort of like a physical element, getting individuals to move. One bigger thing that we are planning, and I still need to sort of connect with President Heath on this regard, is sort of grand opening for a financial wellness conference or financial literacy symposium style thing. If you don't know, there's a really cool center that just got funding, opened up, Carolina Financial Wellbeing Center, and it's for grads and undergrads. And I know that there has been, I think, a whole graduate series regarding financial wellness. I want to say it's sort of spearheaded by you, President Heath, and Neil Sharma as well. And so it's connected to that, but it's a bigger way to introduce this center to this new resource that the university has put a director and 2 assistant directors along with peer financial coaches behind, and then a whole other source of funding so that students can figure out how to best manage their finances because that ties into living well. And so we're working on that front, also having networking events and things of that nature throughout the rest of this semester and more so going to the next semester. But we are sort of targeting things that are meant to help students for life after Carolina. We want to give students the skills that they need for being successful whenever whatever version they want to be in. So Good Living Initiative sort of targets all of that.
Thank you. And so along with that, I'm sure President Heath has shared with you all about the potential for a new campus recreation center. There's been a movement kind of going on several years, but really was spearheaded by our former student body president, Christopher Everett, who really just brought attention to the need for a new campus recreation center. And so that's kind of in progress. We've kind of discussed about, increasing tuition and fees. And so we're hoping that maybe that can break ground within the next year or so, but kind of still waiting on the university. I talked about the Most Swipe donation plan already, but kind of this last point that I'll end with is along the lines of bridging the gap between students and administration. And I wanted to talk to you all about this because I know that there have been lots of resolutions passed in the past couple of weeks. And some of them are really important because I know that a lot of students feel underrepresented and not really heard by administration. And as different things come up over the year, we really find it important as administration to bridge the gap between students and administration. We feel like the gap has widened this year, given recent events. And so we've kind of just been brainstorming ways that we can bring students more to the table. And so I'll have more to say on that later on at future meetings, but we've kind of thought about brainstorming forum opportunities, or we formed like an investment advisory committee that allows students to learn more about how the endowment works, maybe centering a forum around that specifically, but we're still kind of in the brainstorming stage and kind of pitching the ideas to different administrators, but definitely would love to hear from graduate students, since I know that you all have been very engaged in Senate this semester. So I'm welcome to any feedback, but those are all my updates. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I hope your next meeting goes well. And we are going to go back with the regularly scheduled program. Just as a reminder, only one senator can vote on materials when we get to voting later in the session. And the election and voting will be on Heal Life. If you are having trouble when we get to there, please just raise your hand and we will come and help. Okay, now we are in time for open forum. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring to open forum before we get to the legislation? Seeing none, we are going to, again, like we've done the last two meetings, need to select individuals for the 6 standing committees. These, as you see on here, sorry, one second. So yeah, as you can see on here, travel awards and finance both need a new committee member. John Weibach, who is in the house somewhere, thank you, has nominated for travel awards. And Joel Legay has nominated for finance. Fernando.
Is it working? Yeah. Just point of order, or sorry, point of information. Fernando Quijano, chair of the Travel Awards Committee and Business School PhD unit. We have another self-nomination from Nissa Tucker, toxicology. Okay. Nissa Tucker, toxicology.
Yeah, that's point of information though. I believe Nissa was Nick Melosi, Health Policy Manager. I believe Nissa Tucker was confirmed at the last meeting to Travel Awards. So just for the Travel Awards, when you update it, Nissa Tucker should be on it. I think that's all.
Will do.
Yeah, she has already joined our meetings.
Perfect. And I'm going to ask Katie, do we want, there's going to be some changes in finance. Do we want to do that at this meeting, or are we going to need to do that in December? Because I know, looking at Leah, finance does not want to have a person down. But I also don't know if we can elect a 6th member at this time.
Leah, what do you want to do? Isley here? Where? Oh, there you go. Oh, you want to do it now? Is that what you said? Yeah, okay, why don't we do it now?
Okay, so we need to find one more member for finance. Do we have any nominations in the room or on Zoom? As a reminder, we will do this every Senate meeting until they are filled. We can also come back to it at the end of the Senate meeting. Seeing none, we will come back to it. Thank y'all. Okay, for this meeting, we have 4 pieces of legislation that were submitted. As you can see here, there are 55-20 dismissal of Rashim Holland resolution, 55-21 appropriations bill for November 2024, 55-22 travel awards October, and 55-23 town hall deadline extension. We're going to start off with the author of 55-20, who we need to get a microphone to. And I will pull it up on screen.
Am I good to start or do I need to wait for?
You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. Alana Despain from Public Policy. Dear Senators, we introduced this resolution to address the severe situation of a pattern of abuse committed by a member of the UNC Chapel Hill Police Force. Although the police force of our institution is meant to protect the community, Captain Holland has extensive documented instances of disproportionate use of violence on students to cause them harm. The instances that are noted in the resolution, including punching a student and pushing a wheelchair user over and trapping them under a barricade, has brought national infamy and shame to UNC, an institution which ought to be known for its prestigious research and education. Today, we call on you to approve the passage of this resolution as we condemn the horrific actions of Police Captain Holland and recommend the dismissal of Captain Holland from the UNC Chapel Hill Police Force. The threat cultivated by this individual on the UNC Chapel Hill Police Force is unacceptable, as is the taciturn response of UNC administration to the continued abuse of the community. This resolution was born from conversations with concerned constituents of ours who, like us, were disgusted with the actions repeatedly perpetrated by Captain Holland. With this legislation, we seek to solidify their calls to action. Approve this resolution and improve the quality of the organization intended to keep our campus safe. The police force is meant to promote public safety and to protect our students. It is the responsibility of senators to hold administration, to hold the police force accountable. It is also our responsibility to advocate for the safety and well-being of our constituents. The extreme violence and documented culture of fear perpetrated by Captain Holland has no place in our university. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And after that, we are going to go into discussion about this bill. Again, as a reminder, Katie.
No, you want to go ahead?
Again, as a reminder, please raise your hand for the microphone as we are running them around. And second, for the sake of our notes keeper, please say your name, a pause, your unit, a pause, and then go into discussion. Recognizing Katie.
Katie Heath, President. I just had a quick question. If the names, I know we had a discussion at one point, if the names are updated for the newest deans of all of the schools, because I know that they've changed quite a bit recently. Okay, cool. That was my question.
Nick Malosi, Health Policy and Management. So I have 2 questions for you relating to this. Has there been any disciplinary hearings or actions taken by the UNC Police Department against this officer? And then my second question for you would be, does the administration have the authority to unilaterally dismiss this officer? And where I'm driving with this is that I believe they are in a union, and so they have a union agreement for how dismissals work. So those are the 2 questions I have.
So on the first question, any disciplinary action complaints against, they're all like not accessible by the UNC, according to the UNC Chapel Hill Police. Actually, the Daily Tar Heel did an article on this, and in that article, they also report that it is not accessible information for us to have any ongoing disciplinary action or complaints against this member. As for the second question, this was something that we talked about when we were writing this resolution as to if this was like a realistic thing that we could call for. Obviously, we cannot call for the complete dismissal of this individual from like police force in general. Like he would still be eligible to be employed by Chapel Hill Police. But the UNC Chapel Hill Police Department is a specially appointed group and requires like a special application to be a part of UNC Chapel Hill Police. So all that this resolution is calling for is the dismissal of him from serving on the campus police force, not as a police officer in general.
If nobody else has a question, I'll ask another one. Nick Mosey, Health Policy and Management. If we're asking him to be removed from the UNC campus police, in essence, are we not asking him to be removed from the UNC police force because they only police within campus jurisdictionally? And then I would add on to the initial question I asked you about disciplinary hearings. Can those records not be FOIA requested to be heard in public, as it is a public institution? Those pieces of information should be available through a FOIA request.
Okay, so the second question first. I'm not sure about the FOIA request. That's not an avenue that I or Nissa Tucker like pursued for this piece of legislation. And I'm unsure also if those who reported on this through the Daily or other news sources were able to complete that request either. So I'm not sure on that. On the first question, yes, we are asking for him to be removed from UNC campus police at large. He would still be eligible to serve in police forces, not in UNC campus capacity, but we're advocating for him to not be around UNC Chapel Hill campus in terms of the violence perpetrated against students.
I'll let you take it up.
Hashim Amir, economics. I don't have a question. I kind of just want to elaborate a little bit on maybe some of the questions that Nick was asking. And I've talked to some folks at the Daily Tar Heel, and yeah, this is for some reason disciplinary action does not fall under like it's protected police records that do not fall under UNC public disclosure laws. At least that's the opinion of the legal department of the university. But that kind of brings to the point that there is clearly a lack of transparency when it comes to the institution that's supposed to be policing this campus. That the Daily Tar Heel has documented very well, and that we keep seeing over and over with. And actually, it goes beyond. I'm aware the Daily Tar Heel has also frustrations with how the university is not disclosing other records that they believe are in violation of North Carolina state law. So yeah, I mean, we don't, in theory, maybe, but their opinion is that they're not, and then those disclosure requests have been denied.
Fernando Quijano, business PhD. Building on this conversation, I believe on kind of building into questions from Nick, that as an institution, we will be better served by requesting that this officer is limited from his ability to operate within certain parts of campus compared to requesting their immediate dismissal, just as has previously been said, it's not something that we necessarily can request, not knowing what the ability of it to be done legally, whereas requesting his ability to be on campus and next to students is something that looks more possible. So I believe that we might be better served as an institution, was because I worry about how this would be read by people that are like some of the people that this would be getting to that might not get a chance to read the entire thing and just see dismissal and not have the time to realize that we're asking for them to be removed from just the campus police versus their dismissal from being a police officer. And that confusion could backfire and seem as more inflammatory that it needs to be between us and administration. Whereas I believe if we use clear language about how our request is for any way and in any way possible for the campus police to limit his access to campus and to students, which I believe would be more realistic. So I would like to put that recommendation towards the authors of this resolution.
Thank you so much for that input, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. However, I do think that the resolution is only one page, so I think that individuals are very capable of just looking at one page of legislation and understanding what it is that is being called for. I also believe that the actions perpetrated by this individual require a level of accountability beyond simply limiting like certain actions. I think that police officers are some of the most protected people in the United States, and I'm not overtly concerned about his ability to continue serving as a police officer, given the protection that they have from the unions. But I believe that it is our responsibility as a Senate to do everything that we can to protect those that we serve, in this case, our constituents who actively have violence perpetrated against them, especially students of color. So that is the perspective in which we wrote this legislation.
Okay, I am seeing hands on Zoom, so we're going to go in this order. We're going to go Caitlin, Jonah, Hashem, Samantha, and then Fernando. And are there any other?
I think you skipped Elaine here.
Oh, Elaine, when did you raise your hand? Okay.
It's purely informational.
Okay. And then Caitlin, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hello, Caitlin Homeyer, mathematics. Is everyone able to hear me in the room?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. As I said, I'm Caitlin Homeyer for mathematics. I'm speaking today against this resolution. So the first thing that struck me was that the resolution is really presenting a very one-sided perspective on the opinions of the university community about UNC's police response to student protests. In particular, it highlights statements by individuals and organizations against this police response, but fails to mention that a counter petition in support of UNC's response was also circulated and was signed by over 1,600 members of the UNC Chapel Hill community, as well as friends of the UNC Chapel Hill community, including parents of students and professors at other UNC institutions. As a disclosure, both petitions were signed by individuals within my department, and as a personal disclosure, I signed the second petition in support of UNC administration. Despite what this resolution tries to convey, UNC Chapel Hill is not an ideological monolith, and our institution has a diversity of opinions on this specific issue. Our university community is certainly not united behind a resolution of this nature, and I believe that attempting to pass such a resolution only further undermines the credibility and legitimacy of GPSG and the graduate student body as a whole. While we may be able to find common ground in our desire to support the free speech rights of students, that support has to be tempered with the knowledge that time, place, and manner restrictions exist within current legal interpretations of the First Amendment. This means that students do not have the right to break laws, such as defacing property by spraying paint and graffiti on university buildings and removing the American flag from the Polk Place flagpole when exercising their speech. This means that students do not have the right to disrupt campus operations, such as interrupting classes and exams, disrupting a board of trustees meeting, and establishing tent encampments on campus when exercising their speech. And this means that students do not have the right to use violence against people who disagree with them, such as throwing water bottles at university leaders, police officers, and other students, and physically resisting police responses to their actions when exercising their speech. I would also note that when protesters have been peaceful and have acted in accordance with university policy and the law, they receive no interference from law enforcement or university administration. As a specific example, a peaceful vigil in support of Palestine was held on the evening of October 7th, 2024, and it received no police presence or action or otherwise any action against the student protesters by the university. It is only when student protesters have violated university policies and the law that UNC law enforcement intervened. Again, this resolution only further undermines GPSG's credibility, especially after the two inflammatory and damaging resolutions of no confidence passed at the last session against Chancellor Roberts and Provost Clemens, which I also opposed. These sorts of resolutions do nothing to further graduate-student dialogue with the university, and I believe they are ultimately meaningless political demonstrations. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we're going to go with Jonah.
School of Social Work. I'm Jonah Cadens. I want to voice my support for this resolution. Based on conversations that I've had with my constituents, it's widely supported in the School of Social Work. I also want to make sure that we should be able to separate this from ideological discussions. I think I just want to respond to what was just said about this being closely tied to some kind of ideological takeover of the university. I think that that is a fallacy. What we are talking about is not about the students' right to protest. It is not about how students are protesting. It is about the disproportionate response of a specific police officer who physically assaulted students who were engaging in nonviolent protest. If any other university official punched a nonviolent protester in the face, they would be fired. And that is because we recognize that it is outside of the bounds of their authority or their duty as a university official to physically assault a student. And I argue that it's the same thing for a police officer to disproportionately use force to attack students. I also think that limiting Holland's access to campus or to students is unrealistic. And I also want to point out that as somebody with a lot of authority in the UNC Police Department, he has a lot of discretion over departmental decision making. So even if he is removed somehow from direct contact with students, I think that it's important to know that somebody who has physically abused students will still be participating in departmental decision making, which is dangerous for students. Thank you.
Hashim Amire, economics. I do want to speak in support of this resolution. I don't know if you all have seen the picture of Rasheem Holland pulling a student by their hair. It is one thing for the university to respond with police, and you can have your opinions on whether that was appropriate or not, whether you supported the university's actions, whether the protesters were disruptive or not. Nothing excuses that behavior from that police officer. Pulling a student by their hair, that student did not pose a threat to anyone, and that the police officer using that kind of force is embarrassing. That picture has been in national news for months now, and it brings shame to this institution. An individual like him should not remain at this university. I also want to discuss the idea of dismissal in unions. In North Carolina, the North Carolina law prohibits public institutions from entering signed agreements with unions. As a member of a union myself, I'm very aware of this, and there is no agreement between, there is a police union, but there is no formal agreement between the union and the police department and the university. I don't know what the terms of the employment. I'm sure there's a contract between the university and each employee, and I'm sure that contract might outline what rules there are in terms of dismissal. But we are a right to work state, and the university, even if there are certain hurdles the university would have to go through to dismiss him, the university should go through those hurdles. And it's the opinion, if we do pass this resolution, it is the opinion of the Senate that the university should try to pass through those hurdles to have someone who poses a risk to the students on campus not be here anymore. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going with Samantha.
Samantha Beck, pathology. I just have a question. This seems to be tied to a lot of the things that were in the no confidence bills from last month. Why are we just seeing this now? Why wait? Not that it's late, right? But why were these why were these three bills not forward together? Why space them out? And why just bring this up now?
Is that for the author? You're
Yes.
asking?
So you're correct that I think that a lot of the issues are similar, especially due to the no confidence resolutions from last month being tied to the violence perpetrated against students. There was no specific intentionality against them being separated. Like I said in my opening remarks, this was born from conversations that I had with policy constituents who voiced concern to me after the passage of the other resolutions that there had not been any action on calling out as well Captain Holland. And so following those conversations, we decided to also call out the individual who is actively perpetrating the violence against the students, in addition to the administrators who allow it to occur.
Great. So then, quick follow-up. Is there any more that we should be expecting down the line? Or is this kind of it?
I mean, I don't think that's a question that I can fully answer. I believe that it's the duty of senators, be it me or anyone else in this body, to bring legislation forward based on the concerns of those that we serve. So if constituents, at least speaking for myself, if there are concerns voiced by those that I serve, I will write future legislation and bring it to this body, as I believe is my duty to do. And I'm sure that anyone else who serves in this capacity would do the same. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go with Mandy.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay in the room?
Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Mandy. I am with English and Complit. And I want to start by sharing that I appreciate the senator's reference to the photo that has gone around of the student having their hair pulled by Officer Holland. I want to also stress that that was very much not his only instance of violence. I witnessed firsthand and actually have documented proof of the violence he enacted upon students, again, students who were protesting peacefully and who were not breaking any laws, including the moment he came onto the scene and threw a barricade down over a student in a wheelchair. And this is in response to the statements about the types of protesting and whether or not violence towards these students was justified because they were breaking some sort of rules or laws. The student in the wheelchair was sitting in her wheelchair behind a barricade with her camera. She was not doing anything that justified any sort of aggression towards her, certainly not a barricade being thrown on top of her wheelchair. And in the videos that have been posted online, you can see Officer Holland not only push the barricade on top of her with her wheelchair on the side on the ground, but then stand on top of it. Then immediately gets back onto the scene and in front of me, tackled a very, very small student to the ground. I want to respond directly to the comments by the senator in the mathematics department, noting that these sorts of resolutions somehow harm our credibility as an organization. And I want to just ask or push back to say, what sort of credibility do we have if we fail to speak out against violence toward our students, toward our constituents? I'm speaking strongly in favor of this resolution, and I know very well that my constituents agree with that. The majority of my constituents agree with this. I also want to push back about the earlier comments suggesting that the language in this resolution is somehow inflammatory. And I would like to ask or challenge what aspect of this is inflammatory when it is very clearly documented actual evidence of violence toward our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. I believe there was a question towards the senator toward mathematics. Is that correct?
Either a challenge, and maybe not so much of a question, but a response that I do not think that there's any way. I think that failing to speak out against unwarranted aggression and physical violence toward our students from anybody employed by UNC or UNC police, that I think that our credibility is lost when we fail to speak against those things.
I'm going to treat that as a question. And Caitlin, you're welcome to respond to that question.
Can everyone still hear me?
Yes, 1 second.
Is it still possible to hear me in the room?
Yes, we can.
Hashim Amira,
Okay.
Economics. My point of order is that the person who made the statement made it very clear that the question is rhetorical. That does not constitute a right of response.
Okay, then Caitlin, we are gonna put you after Nick for speaking, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
I think Yasmin was before me.
Yes, there's a list that I have in Zoom. And so we are going to go next with Elaine.
Thank you. Elaine Reinke, Vice President in GPSG. So one of my meetings that I hold is an advisory meeting with the Chief of Police, with the undergraduate side also. So Vice President Williams up there, who's hiding behind his computer. We did bring up the resolution, just so they knew it was coming down the line, but also so we could have that discussion. He explicitly told us there had been no complaints filed, which may be why that there's nothing to report. Again, that's what he's telling us, but those meeting minutes are available. I'm happy to share any of my meeting minutes with anybody in this room. That's also a space that we, on the graduate side, could use a few more students in. So if anybody is interested in that specific advisory committee, shoot me an email and I'm happy to include you on future meetings. So purely informational though.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that if you go to police.unc.edu, that's where students are able to file those complaints. And Chief James says that he has not received any complaints. So that's probably a good avenue to further more advocacy on this.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go with Yasmin.
Hi, this is Yasmin Karafi. I'm in marine sciences. I also would like to voice my strong support for the resolution. And I think by now some of my points have already been made by other senators, but I also wanted to comment on the remarks made by the senator in mathematics. I believe she's misconstruing the language and purpose of this bill. This bill is not a referendum.
A point of order. I don't believe that we should be speaking about the intentions of any other speaker that's currently a part of the Senate and recognized.
Sure. Let me rephrase. The purpose of this bill is not to act as a referendum on what student protests or what student free speech is allowed or not. And the bill is not about the merits of free speech on campus and the ways in which it is or is not justified for students to exercise that free speech. And the comments that were brought up about how members of constituents of her department signed petitions in support or against the student protests are absolutely irrelevant to the purpose of this bill, which is specifically about whether or not police brutality is acceptable and whether or not we think that police brutality is something that we want to comment on as a body. And I think that most of us can agree that there should be a red line and there should be accountability surrounding use of force and violent use of force against nonviolent peaceful student protesters. That's what this bill is specifically about. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that the police officer in question has a repeated pattern of this conduct. So I think comments made earlier that this bill is inflammatory need to take into account the fact that this is a repeated pattern and this is not a one-off incident. And it is our job to ensure student safety as a body, and that's what this bill is trying to do.
Thank you. Okay.
Let me just repeat it.
I move to call questions.
Okay. There has been a move to call the question. Is there a second?
Point of information, what does that mean?
Wait, okay.
Point of information, to your point of information, it means we would then decide if we want to. So we're going to I'm assuming the motion will be or has been seconded. We'll then decide if we want to vote on this bill, yes or no.
Objection.
Do I hear any, is this a point of order or?
Technically, that would be a motion that would have to come after this motion.
Okay, sorry.
So you're still fine. You're totally okay. I think we would first need to resolve this motion and then we could.
Has this been seconded? Is there a second for the motion?
Okay, this motion has been seconded. This means that we are going to need,
I think there's an objection.
yes, I was about to.
Sorry, you're
Are
good.
there any objections? Okay, well, there's an objection. This means we are going to need to vote for this.
I'm sorry, just to jump in really quickly. Could you clarify again what the motion was and what we will now be voting on?
Yes, Katie, do you want to say it for me or?
Yeah, this is a motion to move the question. It basically means we'll end discussion. And in normal Robert's rules, it would mean that we are deciding to go ahead and vote on it. But because of the rules of the Senate, it in practicality would just end discussion. We would move on because we don't normally vote on bills right after we talk about them. In normal Robert's rules, moving the question is a motion to agree that we will now vote on it. It's not a vote yes or no on the bill. It's just a vote yes or no. Let's move on. Basically.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you, Katie. Okay.
Do I get to justify my objection?
Not that I know
Where there's
of.
discussion on this.
Yeah, that means we are going to need to go into a hand vote. And if it is not clear, we will have to do a roll call vote. For those that are on Zoom, Yasmin, I have your name down for speaking. So if you can go ahead and lower your hands, lower your hand. For those on Zoom, when we vote, you're going to need to raise your hand and then we are going to count. And then I'm going to call to ask for you to lower your hand and then we will move on. Fernando, do you have another point of order?
Could I move, please? Yeah. Point of information, Fernando Quijano, PhD. Is there a way here where I can request a different, so instead of moving to finalize question, to move to only consider comments about amending the text of the current resolution beyond the questions?
I don't think that's a thing. I think we would have to withdraw the motion, hear that motion, and then re-establish the motion for that to happen.
Can I request from the person that moved it that they consider changing their motion to move to only consider amendments to the text of the resolution and not questions about it?
So they're just asking if you would consider amending your motion to allow that motion to happen before this motion. Point of order. Yeah. Sure. I know.
Point of order, Hashimir Economics. I don't think that motion would be in order to begin with, because if we're amending the resolution, then we can't end discussion on a resolution that's being amended. So I don't think that's in order to begin with.
Yeah, I think the request is to withdraw the motion, allow another motion, and then to reestablish your motion.
Parliamentary
But it is not
inquiry.
required, so.
Thank you. A motion has been made, it's been seconded, it's been objected to. You don't debate these sorts of motions, so we need to move into voting on that motion to call the question now, respectfully.
Just a point of information on that. I think generally it's been the decorum of the Senate that we've had allowed to ask senators if they'd like to reconsider their motion before we go into a vote so that other things can be proposed. But I think that's just always been kind of our collegial nature on this one. But I understand your comment and I appreciate it. I guess my question would be, is that a yes or a no on reconsidering and withdrawing your motion? And then we can vote.
No, I would like to vote.
Okay, go ahead, call the wall.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to go with the first part.
Oh yeah, the question is, do we vote per unit or do we vote per senator on this? I believe that we vote, all senators get a vote. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
Voting by unit is only by for the final vote. Okay, so if you could on Zoom and in person raise your hands and raise your placard, sorry, if you vote for this motion. Yes, the motion to end question.
Make my statement.
Please raise them and keep them high, please. 1, 2. Is that 21?
We can't see can you see what the Zoom count
Oh,
is?
yeah, was that
You got it.
21 in person?
Yeah.
Cool. On Zoom, we have 24. So that is a total of 65. No, 45. Sorry, my math.
45.
Sorry, my math is poor. Okay, you can go ahead and lower your hand. This is a majority, but we can go ahead with.
I think you got to still complete the vote.
Yes. So thank you all. You can go ahead and lower your hands. This motion does pass.
I think you still have to do the nays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once everybody on Zoom lowers their hand, we can go ahead with nays. And in person, you can go ahead and raise your placard. Okay, 7 in person, 1 on Zoom. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that is 45 for, 7 against, and 0 abstentions. This means that we will end the question and move on to the next piece of legislation. Thank you so much. And again, if you can't hear me, please just let me know.
Easy.
Fernando?
Point of clarification and inquiry. Point of inquiry or information. Fernando Quijano, business PhD. Would I be allowed to move for a request to consider 2 friendly amendments to this?
Unfortunately, we have a motion to end question, so there is no friendly amendments on this.
Perfect.
Okay, Samantha, would you like to go ahead and introduce this bill?
Yes, so Samantha Beck, Chair of Appropriations and Pathology. This is our standard appropriations bill for the month. We only had 4 requests totaling $1,775 due to the very low amounts requested, as well as the number of low amounts of events. We decided to recommend them all. Cool.
Katie, you have a question?
Katie Heath, President. Do you have the total on how much y'all have awarded yet? Is that in the bill?
That is not in the bill. However, I was going to give that during my chair updates.
Cool, that's fine. I was just curious.
Are there any more questions on this bill? I'm checking on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to end discussion on this?
So moved.
I hear a second.
Second.
All right, thank you. Okay, Fernando?
Yep, just 1 second. Hi, Fernando Quijano, business school PhD and chair of the Travel Awards Committee. This is the bill to award $6,550 to, I believe is it 14 or 13? I think it's a little bit further down. I think it's 13 awardees from a total of 26 that were considered. I think the numbers in there are, the total applicants has to be updated to the 26 that should add up to. So I will change that as a friendly amendment. But yeah, we had definitely less applications in last semester, last period, but we gave a similar amount and ensuring that we keep a similar amount for all future periods. Any questions?
Emma Wren, linguistics. Do you have any sense what might have caused the lower number of applications this round? Because it's like significantly lower.
The average on a regular period tends to be closer to 30 to 40. So this is not the unusual. The unusual is the previous period where we had over closer to 70 applications from MBA students going to the National Black MBA Association, ROMBA, and other specific MBA conferences. So that is the difference.
So essentially the difference is whoever is in charge of the MBA program has not been recommending this as highly this period?
No, it's a very specific conference that just happens then, and it's one of the biggest like career fairs in the country. So usually 80 to 90% of MBA students that are looking for jobs in their first and second years will attend this. And most of them were, we have travel awards. Let's see if we can get some awards so we can go.
Recognizing Katie.
Just, can you repeat the number of applicants you had? You made a friendly amendment to
Oh,
change.
yes. So the total applicants should add up to the numbers being needed. So it should be 26.
The total amount awarded, I'm sorry, what was the total amount
13.
awarded in this
13.
cycle? No, dollars.
Oh, 6,550.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got one right here. Okay.
And that number is included in, I guess, the third paragraph.
You can go further below. Oh, yeah.
Nick Malosi, Health Policy and Management. Just also chime in. I was on travel awards for 3 years. This is pretty consistent. What we see for a pattern is that you have an initial surge. There's a bit of a drop down as we get into the winter months, and then January onwards, as there's more conferences in the summer, you will see a large increase. So I have no concerns that we will be getting work out of our travel awards committee in the next coming months. So my advice to all the new members in travel awards would be enjoy the lull, because come February and March, you ain't gonna have it.
Emma Wren, linguistics. Based on that previous point, does the travel committee take into account that there's this sort of cyclic up and down nature in the awards so that we're not giving out a flat amount per period?
In response, that's a very good question. And that's something that we take very much into account. And we look at the lulls from previous years to ensure that we account for that. And at every one of our meetings, we start by looking at our budget, and based on what we have given till now and what we expect to be giving, that there is a certain amount of budget guaranteed as a base for every single period.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, either in person or on Zoom? Seeing none, is there a motion to end question?
Motion to question.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. We will move on to the third bill. Or fourth bill, my apologies. And this will be Leah.
Hi, all. So this bill is written to help senators who did not meet the deadline for funding request, which was due yesterday night. We have in the bill, it says about a little over 55% of senators have requested funding, meaning the other remaining, you can do the math, I'm not, for it, have not requested funding. So we believed that you guys weren't going to be, for the units that did not complete this, y'all were not going to be able to request funding, meaning you would have to do town halls by
December 9th, if you follow the Better Town Hall bill from 54-005, you had 90 days from the first Senate meeting, so December 9th, 2024, to complete a town hall, and you would have to do it without funding. So I made it so that this bill extends until February 28th, 2025, that you would be able to have to do this town hall without anything going against you for the 90-day deadline. So meaning it wouldn't mess with your allocations at the end of the semester.
I do have a question for you, Leah. You said how many units had completed?
At that time, it's 55.17% of the senators.
Cool. We have 59 units in total, so we are currently missing 4. So
Really quick, can you state your name and unit, please?
Leah Frazier, pharmacology.
Emma Wren, linguistics, point of clarification, it is 55.7% of senators.
Yeah.
So that would be around a little over, like maybe 27 units.
thank you. Ellen?
Yeah, currently.
1 second, microphone, please.
It's currently 35.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Fernando?
Fernando Quijano, business PhD. Could you please inform us the reasoning for February 28th as a date? Mostly my question is to make sure that senators don't have one like in February 27th and then try to have another one in April, and whether that would make it too close for the fall one to be too close to the spring one.
It was just because of December, most of all the students are gone. The beginning of February, is time for students to get back into the groove of things. So I thought February was a good time to end it all. It was just a random date made.
I saw Ben King next, then Katie.
Thanks, Benjamin King, Public Administration. This is germane to the bill, but not necessarily to the intent of the bill. But could someone talk about why the bill says that the GPSG code has not yet incorporated the updated guidelines from the Better Town Hall bill? We spent a lot of time debating that bill last year. I went to committee like 2 times. And so why hasn't that been incorporated to the code when we spent so long on that?
I can take that. Due to issues with compiling the code last spring, the September code did not include it. The September 2024 code does not include about 3 items we did last semester. So there will be a December version of the code after we vote on everything today. The office or the student government office, meaning the OAs and myself, will be compiling this and putting out a clean 2024 December version. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in my head, we passed the bill. So it is, never mind, I'm just kind of processing this out loud. So it is in place, if you will. It's just not in the code. Is that what's
legal? It is just not written down.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Katie.
Yeah, I'll respond to that. It's an administrative error, not a law problem. I just wanted to ask to make sure I totally understood. So this will not prevent fall allocations from happening. They're still going to happen on time. It just changes and makes sure that units can be eligible for spring allocations. Correct.
Correct.
That was I just wanted to double check I understood that.
Ellen has a question.
Yeah, so I was under Ellen Reisenberg, bioinformatics and computational biology, and SOGAP chair. I was under the impression that they could still get their fall allocations, but in the spring.
I can respond to that. William, do you want to respond to that, or do you want me to do it?
Feel free.
So the way that allocations works is it's one bucket that gets divided between a bunch of different units. So there is no way you have to do it all at once. There is no way to do some now and some later, because the equation that we use is the amount of money divided by, it's complicated, but it's basically the amount of money divided by the number of eligible units. And then some weirdness to figure out like how much they get, but it is done, it's just a distribution of one pot. And the way that we did it is that fall allocations is 10,000 and spring allocations is 10,000. So you do fall allocations, split up the 10,000, everybody gets it. Then spring allocations is a new 10,000 and you split it up. So there would be no way to give people their money early. You have to do it all at once. And I think that's what this would do, is my understanding.
Okay.
Sir, let's go with the one in-house first, and then I see a hand raised on Zoom.
Joe Kerrigan, Biomedical Engineering. If you don't give the entirety of the funds for the centers who haven't applied for it yet, does it roll over to the spring, or is it reallocated to the senators for this term who've already applied, who didn't get the necessary amount of funding, or how does the excess funding work?
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
So my question was, if you have a certain amount of funding for all the senators, but 55% have already sent it out, so there's 45%, about $4,500 remaining from the 10 grand. Does it roll over to spring? So the new spring allocation is 14,500, or does the 4,500 get reallocated to the remaining senators who've done it if this doesn't pass?
No.
Where does the money go?
Oh yeah, Katie can answer it. So different pots of money. The town hall funding money is money that is only used to fund town halls. That is its own budget line, and that is what that 55% is. Allocations is a different pot of money that they aren't overlapping. So if 55% of people have applied, that means that pot of money that's used to fund town halls, that will roll over. That, I mean, and even people that did one in the fall can also do it in the spring, so that you could have two if you wanted. So that's the town hall funding. Allocations is a separate pot of funding, and that is funding that is given once you qualify, once you do the town hall, once you do everything to be able to get it, then we give that to you, and your unit is able to spend that in a way that benefits your unit.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay, Senator on Zoom.
I think it's me. Is it me?
Correct.
Okay. Hi guys, it's Brittany Alcera with Biochemistry and Biophysics. I just had a question in terms of point of clarification. Is it not that did we not pass it last year when we were going back and forth about the two town halls, that one would be optional, or did we pass it where it was both of them were mandatory?
So I can answer this. It is only the fall that is mandatory. The spring is optional if you want to do it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Were there other hands before Nick inside? I saw Ellen's hand.
Yeah, so Ellen Reisenberg, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology. When we were looking at this bill, when I co-sponsored this bill, I was under the impression that senators would get their fall allocation still in the spring. Now I'm learning that that is not possible, but I don't think that it's right to punish senators who had less than a month to start this process of planning the town hall, when in previous years they had basically all year. So I think the only real solution to that is to also make an adjustment to allocations so that they're only given, if we're going to extend this into the spring, allocations are also only given in the spring. Obviously, that would require tabling this bill and updating it. But that's my position. So I don't really know exactly what I would need to do to.
Is that a question?
No.
If it's a motion, you can make a motion, but if it's just a comment, you can just leave it as a comment.
Okay, so a motion to table the bill and bring it back in December. Okay.
If you want to do a motion to refer it to committee.
Okay.
I motion to make an amendment. bill before we motion to table it.
Okay, okay,
Ellen had speaking rights if you want to make a motion first.
okay. That's a good idea, though. I'll motion to amend the bill to also update the allocations process so that allocations are all $20,000 of the allocations are given in the spring. So this town hall issue does not affect senators' eligibility for allocations.
To my knowledge, this would revert part of what we voted on with the better town hall bills. Katie?
So just point of clarification, we can't like go back and change another bill. So the motion, if it's an amendment, you would need to motion for language to add into the bill. You can't, you would have to like type something out to make a motion to make an amendment, which you can have a minute if you need to do that.
Okay. Okay, all right. So I have to write out.
But yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
is that a friendly amendment?
Apparently, no.
No. Okay. Then I guess I take it back or whatever.
Nick, did you have something to say that you wanted to say afterwards?
I was gonna. I was gonna motion to see if there was a friendly amendment to the bill so we could combine the allocations into one pool instead of having two, but I will defer to Chair Fraser on that one if that's something she thinks that should be amended to this bill or if the bill's fine in its current form.
Emma Wren, linguistics. Is there a reason why we're all thinking of recombining the allocations into one pool instead of two, instead of just considering all senators who completed a town hall and all senators who didn't do a town hall in the fall semester as in equal standing on that point for the fall allocations? And then in the spring, if you still haven't done a town hall, then it starts to affect your allocations. Is there a reason we're not considering that?
Leah?
I don't think there is.
So I think that would, or Samantha Beck, pathology. I think a reason that we should not consider that is due to the fact that we need to have some reason for these units who have not done a town hall to do a town hall. I think the reason for the better town hall bill was to get people to go to their constituencies and talk to them. And that if we just and the reason for allocations is to get them to do their job essentially. And therefore, yes, it was only a month, and I'm one of the biggest advocates for the fact that they only had a month, but they still need a reason, a kick in the pants to actually do a town hall. And so I don't think, in addition to not giving allocations out this fall or for this fall, is that then we would be punishing the units who actually did a town hall. So I think leaving the bill how it is right now is probably the best option.
Who had their hand up first?
I think it was me.
Katie.
I wanted to give a little bit of perspective as the person who wrote the bill or co-wrote the bill last year, just for some of the reasoning behind why this change was made in the first place that I hope will give a little bit of context. So the reason that we split allocations into a fall and a spring is because if we do allocations is meant to be a reward, right? It's not a punishment to not get it. It's a reward for people who participate. And we were finding that it was challenging for when we did it all at once in the spring. We can't calculate allocations until we get attendance. And the issue was that we would hit the April 4th meeting. There were 2 weeks left of class. And then everyone here had hundreds of dollars and 2 weeks to spend it. And you didn't know how much you were going to get until the beginning of that 2 weeks. And then it was a 2-week timer and you had to have spent it. Not even decided to spend it, you had to have spent it in 2 weeks. And that is because of the way that, you know, in order to count attendance, right, you need to have all of your attendance, and also because of the rules of the Carolina student organizations, basically the business office, right? And so we decided that it would be beneficial so that we give an opportunity for the senators who did complete their town hall in the fall to be rewarded for that, to be able to have a whole semester to spend your money. That's the thought process behind this. I think that I want to reiterate the intention of allocations is to reward senators for participating, right? It's a reward, not a punishment to not get it. It is something that you get by participating and being active in Senate. I won't speak to like how long everyone's had. I think that that's totally fair, those concerns. But I think that, you know, we had 55%, that is more than half. I will say like last year at the end, I'll have to look up the exact number. It was about 3/4 of the units did a town hall at all, right? So if that gives you a little bit of perspective on like the proportions. I think in the current version of the bill, the great thing is that it allows people to continue to earn rewards, or however you want to call it, for participating in the spring. So even if you weren't able to quite pull it off for the fall, you're still participating, you're still here, you get to still earn that opportunity to have money in the spring. So I just wanted to give that in the perspective of where we were thinking when this change was made last year. I also, you know, obviously it didn't go perfect this year because it's the first time we were doing it. And so I think that's genuinely something to consider, but I just wanted to give that perspective.
Ellen, then Nick.
I'll defer to you, Leah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, to add to that, currently, as of right now, it's almost 60% of units that have completed it by last night.
Ellen, did you have something or?
No.
Okay, Nick, then Hashem.
I'd like to motion the question.
Okay, there has been a motion to question. Are there any objections? Seeing none.
Second.
Sorry, my apologies. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any objections, either in person or online? Seeing none, we are going to end discussion on this bill. Thank you. At this time, just give me 1 second and we are going to go ahead and move on to voting and then updates. And so just give me 1 second and I'll be right back with you. Katie, you have announcements. Would you like to go ahead and do those announcements while I'm working on this?
Yeah, I can. Do you have the slides so I can remember what
I
I'm
do have the slides. We are also 2 minutes before we put the election timer on. So, because we start elections at 7 usually.
We're that
So,
fast.
We
Okay.
have 1 minute.
I'll
so-
talk for a really long time. So, that was a joke. I promise I won't. Okay, so I wanted to give a couple of updates. I have kind of a weird mix of updates, some that are kind of bigger picture and some that are more just like announcements. The first thing I wanted to update on is that last week was the Board of Trustees meeting, where I get as president a 5-minute presentation with the Board of Trustees. I spent my time in that presentation talking about stipends. And Elaine and another member of the Erin, who's is it Provost Advisory Committee is what she's on? College of Arts and Sciences Advisory Committee did some really great work getting some data about where we are in graduate stipends that I was able to present to the board. And I think it was really well received. We had a really good conversation, I think, as a group. And I always want to, I know this is something that I think a lot of people think about and are worried about. And so this is kind of something we're actively discussing about what does the long-term look like for stipends? Because if I didn't bring any of the graphs, but right now, if you look at the 10 peer institutions that we generally compare ourselves to, we have the lowest stipends once compared for cost of living, the second lowest if you don't adjust for cost of living. And That's not great. And I should specify, I'm talking about the minimum stipend rate. So some may make more than that, but this is just talking about the minimum. I think that this is like a really, we're having a lot of rumblings and good conversations about what does it mean for regular stipend increases moving forward. Is there a way that it doesn't have to be that the president of GPSG has to make a report every single year about, oh my God, this is so bad. Please do this, and then they do it. The preference would be that maybe we have a more regular system, something like that. So I think we're talking about it. We have a lot of very amazing advocates. Dean Bethmeyer Davis, who's the dean of the graduate school, and other people that we work with that I think are working on this. And so I just want everyone to have an update that I know this is important to graduate students, and I wanted you to know that this is something we're talking about. The other thing I wanted to mention about the Board of Trustees meeting is that there were a couple of comments from the Board of Trustees about the resolutions that were passed. I didn't write them down. And so there were a couple of individuals on the board that had responses. The video is available if you just search UNC Board of Trustees and you want to watch it. I thought that is just to tell you that is the easiest way. I also had some comments from other board members that said that those comments were not representative of the opinion of the entire board. So just take that with a grain of salt. So I wanted to, they asked me to share it with you all. So I wanted to make sure that I did. A couple of other just piece of information about things that are going on. So I sit on the tuition and fee advisory task force, I think is what it's called. And there have been some changes that have been recommended to the Board of Trustees. One is a $75 increase to all student fees that will go towards a new rec center. And I should clarify, $25 of that comes out of a different fee. So it actually will look like to you a net $50 increase to fees that would go into effect next fall. This is to help supply funding for new recreation facilities, not just a gym. It's a myriad of plans for different wellness spaces. And it's something that has been advocated by students for a while. And so I'm fully in support of this. I think it's going to be pretty awesome and we need it desperately. I don't know if any of y'all have gone to the gym lately. It's rough. But I did want you all to be aware of that change. There are also some changes to some individual the tuition of some of the individual programs and units. Off the top of my head, I think Gillings, dental, law are included. And the details of that, the easiest way again is probably to look at the recording of the Board of Trustees meeting or send me an email and I'll send you all the details. I didn't memorize it. But those changes have all been recommended to the board. And so I wanted to make sure everyone knew about that. It is something that we have pretty significant student input in, and it was a really good, I think, conversation, very robust conversation. So, and then the last kind of on that.
Can I interject, Katie?
Yeah.
The voting is now open. So please go ahead and do that while we're talking. And then back to you, Katie.
Good. The last thing that I wanted to tell you all about is that you all pay a fee called the student organizations fee. That fee is looked at by another subcommittee that is made up of student government and students. They have made a change to the way that fee is being spent. It's not going to be different for you. But what is going to change is that it has been recommended, this isn't official, but it has been recommended by that committee that Student TV no longer receives a portion of that fee because it seems to be defunct for multiple years and just sort of taking money and not spending it. And what that means for this group is that funding that comes from graduate students is now going to go back into student government. So something we will have to consider when it comes time for us to balance our budget is that we will see an increase. I'm estimating it's going to be something like $18,000 increase to our budget, something like that. And so I wanted you all to be aware of that. There's also some other small changes. I'm happy to answer questions about if anyone wants to know, but that is coming. It does have to pass, I believe, a constitutional amendment. And so there's obviously some hurdles that we need to get through to make that happen, but I wanted to tell all of you about that. Any questions about any of that by chance? You might want to get a microphone too. I just thought that'd be easier than doing it all and going back at the end.
Thank you. Tyler West, epidemiology. One question I had was about the first thing that you discussed, which was the stipends. I'm curious, when you were mentioning partner institutions that are being compared, are some of those private universities, or are they all public universities? Because I know that they can be a little bit different depending on the type of institution. If you could elaborate on what those public ones are, I'm very interested to hear what those are.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So they're all public, no private. The peer institutions are it's a group of students that's actually defined by the university. So I didn't pick it, they pick it. It is, I can tell you a couple, University of Virginia, University of Florida, UC Berkeley, UCLA, University of Washington, University of Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas, UT.
Yeah. I have that, it's an Excel spreadsheet, nothing super magical, but it's a shareable. Again, always happy to give you that information.
Can I interject one more time? Is anybody having trouble with voting? Cool. Keep going.
Cool. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, if anyone wants to follow up after, it's great data if you want to see it. So I'm happy to share it. Here, I'll just
I do have a question on the minimum stipend point. Oh, Emma Wren, linguistics. So is that the minimum stipend period, or is that the minimum stipend which qualifies one for tuition remission? Okay, because I know people who make less than that.
Let me clarify that. So that is a really good question, and I wasn't being very specific. That is the minimum PhD stipend in order to be eligible for tuition remission, but it's generally what we use for comparison. Because usually for RAs and TAs, that is usually kind of what they follow. This doesn't include master's students. So the master's students minimum for tuition remission is lower. I want to say currently it's like the PhD is like 20,600 and the master's like 18,000 maybe.
A semester for remission.
8,250 per semester for remission. Yeah. So it is the minimum. We throw that around really casually, but they like to make it complicated. So yeah.
So is the proposal to increase the stipend, which would make one eligible for remission, or to increase the minimum stipend? Because I can see a feature where the trustees say we've increased the stipend that makes you eligible for remission, but we have not increased the minimum. And all that happens is a larger portion of students don't get remission.
I don't think that is what the conversation is. You know, I'll be honest with you. Have I explicitly talked about that with them? I haven't. It's a really good point. I think when it's sort of the understanding that we're talking about the expectation that this will be, I don't know that there is a minimum.
I don't believe
so. So it's a good point. I'll ask about it. It's a good question. I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest with you. So it's a really good question. So yeah, go ahead.
Joe Kerrigan, biomedical engineering. Is it that the stipend doesn't, because it increases every year? It doesn't increase every year?
So the stipend historically has not increased every year. It was 15,700 for about 6 years. And then in this is super rough. I think it's like in 2020-ish, it went up to 17,000. 2022, it went up to the current 20,000. And then this past year, they did a 3% increase. Again, graphs would make this way easier for me to tell you. One of the things I'm really advocating for is for the expectation that there is an increase every year.
I was going to ask if it increases with inflation, or how they do the increase number, and how do other universities do it. Because I guess I'm out of touch. My number is not that. So
yeah, and I think that's part of the conversation is what should that be? I think if y'all want to just have a meeting, we could talk about stipends. Hell yeah. I don't want to take too long with this meeting to get into the specifics. But it's something that we talk about with them a lot, and we're just trying to get everyone on the same page. So we can talk more details about it. And I just don't want to take up too much about details here. Yeah. Are there any questions about any of that stuff? No. Okay. Sorry, Elaine. A couple other things that I want to mention. The chair of the Joint Governance Council, who was Jake Diana, had to step down for some personal stuff going on. And so I haven't, but will be immediately after this meeting, I'm recommending Leah to be the new chair of the Joint Governance Council. I'm hoping that she'll accept. I think that will be really exciting. And that change is going to be happening hopefully like really fast. So I wanted everyone to be aware that that change is occurring. We had a couple of events over the past month. I just want to say a shout out to the members of my cabinet who worked on the Wellness Festival, the grad cafes that we've been having. All of that stuff has been really fantastic. We had also the financial wellness workshop, got talked about earlier, amazing stuff. And lastly, we did have an event a couple of weeks ago that was a dialogue event that was basically meant to be an opportunity for grad students to come together and just talk about like being a grad student, how that fits in with being, around the election. And I thought that event was really nice. I got to go. It was fantastic. And I am hoping that we can do it again, but maybe just a little more attendance, because I think part of the problem may have been the timing and, whatever with events. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that again. So if anyone has anything about, if you wanted like a big group of grad students to get together and talk about something, please tell me what you want that to be. Because I would really like to organize more of these events where it's basically, we just, we can be our academic selves and just kind of talk about like what we think, come up with ideas and stuff like that. Okay, that's all the big stuff. Just a couple of very, very quick announcements. One is that there is an event that's going to be coming up on November 22nd. This is the libraries have reached out to us to let us know that they are planning on making some renovations to the libraries, and they want to involve graduate students in those renovations. I think that they want, they did not change it to GPSG, it still says GPSF, so I'll fix that. But they want students to be involved in that process and see what graduate students want out of the libraries. One thing I'm really trying to advocate for is like a graduate student lounge study space in the libraries that I know that we would really like to see. So if you'd like to be, I'm going to send out like a sign up form to that. I didn't have time to put it together today, but I'll send everyone an email about that. So if you're able to come on November 22nd from 1 to 1:50, I think it's gonna be super beneficial, and we're gonna have some real input with like the people making the design decisions. There are 3 surveys going on right now. The first one in particular, the Graduate Student Working Conditions Survey. This is a huge survey. This is not something that the university has done really ever. And I think that this is going to be really, really impactful. And so I just want to emphasize that I please ask you to send this to your constituents. It'll go out in the announcements. This is a survey that's being done by the graduate school that is directly asking graduate students, what are your working conditions in your labs? What are your working conditions in your TA, in your RA? What's your relationship with your advisor? And getting actual like quantifiable data about the issues that graduate students are dealing with and kind of in the numbers. I think this is the type of thing that we can use to get change to happen at the university and at the administrative level. This is, and I'm not being dramatic. I genuinely think this is maybe the most important survey that has come out to graduate students in years. So I would please ask that when this goes up in the announcements to just bug people. They're giving away $100 gift cards, fill it out, to some, no, I don't know how many. So please do that. There's 2 other surveys that we'll also send out. One is a survey, William, will you go to the next slide? I think there's some more info about those. I think it's past this. Yeah, there's 2 more surveys. One of them is around AI and the use of AI. This is something that our Director of Academic Affairs has been working on very diligently. And this is helping to inform UNC leadership about our interest in like workshops and resources related to AI, and also about our use of AI. They're also giving away iPads. And I don't think they've had very many fill it out, to be honest with you. So like a really good shot of getting an iPad.
As of the grad cafe yesterday, it was 500 people. So you have a 1%.
That's not that bad for like a free iPad. I mean, just saying. And then what is the next slide too? Is it just more about the same?
I think it is a different version of the flyer.
Okay, please again, send this out to your constituents. Sorry, William, can you now go back to my original slide?
I will also be sending out my post Senate email, and I will attach both flyers so that y'all can send it out.
Yeah. The last survey, our Director of Academic Affairs is also doing a survey, just asking graduate students about, what it is that they want to see from us in terms of academic affairs and changes they want to see on campus. Okay, last, I have office hours on Monday. Come hang out with me. That's it. You can, there's a sign up on the website. I'll say if y'all don't know, there's a GPSG calendar that like has all of the stuff that we do on it on the website. It's like on the homepage of GPSG website. And my office hours are there and you can sign up and come hang out with me. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Katie. We still have 1 or 2 people on Zoom that are struggling to vote. So I'm working with them. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the updates from any other executive members. I don't know how many of them are actually here that have updates.
Not an executive, am I? Oh, I am an executive member.
Super good.
Oh, I can have an update if you want me to have an update. Follow our social media. Tell your constituents to follow our social media. We have TikTok now. Super fun. We're starting an Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader kind of game with our grad students. If you want to see if you're smarter than a fifth grader, email me. That's my whole update.
Also, I also believe the website is completely or as up to date, much more up to date than it was.
So your page, the senator's page on the website should be up to date. Please, it is so much easier for you to go check and make sure you are listed under your unit than for me to check 3 or 4 more times. So please go to the website, check and make sure your name and your email are accurate under your unit. If they're not accurate, email GPSG_DERMS_comms. Thank you.
And if they have a problem or if their photo is not up there and they want one, should they also send that email to you? All right, I will reserve my updates for a little bit later. Has everybody voted? I have not gotten a no from anybody on Zoom. Seeing none, I'll work on that. Okay, we are going to go to updates to committee chairs. I can call y'all out or y'all can volunteer, whoever wants to go first. Leah.
I did receive a self-nomination from Brittany to join finance, so we don't have to do that.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Hashim?
Hashim Amir, Economics. Molly is unable to be with us today, so I'm giving the update for R&J, Rules and Judiciary. And the update says, in October, R&J met several times to discuss the governing documents for GPSG and student government more generally. We have also made initial steps towards the code review, which will start in earnest in the spring. Our November meetings on the 22nd at 3 p.m. If anyone has any legislation that they want reviewed for the December Senate meeting, please do it before then. Again, that's November 22nd at 3 p.m., which is in 10 days. Also, Jacob Ginn from Sociology told me that he wants to self-nominate for finance, but he's not here today.
Not here at all, or?
His co-senator is here, but he's not here.
That does mean that we will have to have some voting on senators. Could you possibly reach out to him to confirm that nomination before we end? Thank you. I also want to add on to the Rules and Judiciary. If you look through the code and you notice something that is weird, please let us know. Because we have the office assistants, which are undergrads, and they are doing an amazing job. They have gone through the code twice and given me, I think, like 20 or 30 suggestions on things that they don't think exists or are unclear and other things, but many hands make light work. So if you notice something in the code, that is just weird and you don't think it exists, you think it should be clearer, please just let Rules and Judiciary know. But also like, don't spam them with emails. So like stuff like that. Who is next? Caution, did you have something else to say?
I asked him and yes, he still wants to run.
Okay. We will get to that at the very end. Sam.
So appropriations, as I promised you, currently has approved $7,380 for the year so far out of our $43,000 budget, which means we have about a little over $35,000 left. And that 7,400-ish was from 12 events. So there's your update for that. And then the only other update I have is that appropriations requests for basically the end of the year is next Friday, the 22nd. So get them in then. And that our next meeting will be on the 26th via Zoom. So plan for that if you are requesting things.
Fernando Quijano, Business PhD and Chair of the Travel Awards Committee. With the $6,550 that we proposed for this period, we have allocated a total of $22,800 from our initial budget of $48,500. With that in account for all the future periods, we have $5,500 per period based on our current budget. And we already are reviewing the latest period, which ended in November 8th. And the next deadline will be December 8th for travel to be done in January.
Ellen?
Yeah, Ellen Reisenberg, SOGAP's chair. So there are 57 represented units. That's two less than you said, but that's what I have. As of this afternoon, 33 of them have at least scheduled their town hall, and 11 of those 33 have completed their town hall and submitted the town hall report form. So 24 senators haven't scheduled their town hall, which, as we've discussed, is required for the fall. So you can still hold the deadline for requesting funding has passed. You can still hold one without funding by December 9th and still be eligible for fall allocations, or you can hold one in the spring by February, and the deadlines for submitting the funding request form will be determined by finance. So 22 senators have scheduled or have already held their town hall and haven't submitted their town hall report form. So please fill out that report form. Did you ever find out what the deadline for that form should be?
Yes, or deadline for the town hall report?
Yeah, for determining allocations, fall allocations.
For determining allocations, allocations will be determined basically midnight after the December Senate meeting. And so please have all your stuff done by then, because we cannot give you funding if you don't have your stuff done, and that'll make us sad.
Okay, so then I guess I would so the next Senate meeting is on December 3rd. So I'm gonna amend something I said earlier. You will have to hold your town hall by December 3rd to be eligible for fall allocations, and then also submit that town hall report form. It's super quick. The next SOGAPS meeting is next Monday, November 18th, which is 2 weeks before the next Senate meeting. So if you have any resolutions, send it to us by then.
Thank you. Nope. Benjamin King, did you have something from ONA?
Thanks. Nothing crazy going on. We're doing just sort of like routine meetings with folks from the cabinet and executive board. We had some miscommunications with setting up meetings at our last meeting, or having folks attend last meeting. So this next meeting, which is on Sunday, we intend to have the Vice President of Finance and the Vice President for Communications meet with us, not necessarily in like an adversarial, like oversight, like slap on the wrist kind of way, but just seeing what work they're doing and getting an update from them. So nothing crazy going on, which I guess is a good thing from the Oversight Committee.
Did that get all committees? I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who am I missing? Seeing none. Next. We already got town hall updates. Any updates from the cabinet? Cool. That is old. I guess next we are going to announce the results of the election. You are totally okay. And then we are going to go into discussion and voting on 2 members of the, voting for 2 members for finance and out of the 3 members that have applied. So if somebody would like to retract their nomination, that means we won't have to do that. Just FYI. I can also give announcements while you work on that, Katie. Okay.
Sorry, we're down a person today, so it's a little all over the place. They all passed.
Cool. And if you would like details, we can get those details to you later.
They'll be published on the bills too.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. I guess my updates, I have 1 or 2 updates. We also have the executive updates from Beck's Chief of Staff that y'all can see. They are located somewhere.
Probably Canvas and Heal Life.
Cool. They will be on Canvas and Heal Life. If you are having trouble accessing those, send me an email. Okay. Lastly, before we get to voting and other things, I do want to apologize for getting the bills out late today or yesterday sometime. The last bill that I received was yesterday morning at 9 a.m. So I'm going to try to ask that that doesn't keep happening, but we also did want this bill, which was the town hall bill. It was an emergency one, so we kind of did want that to be added to the ballot. So I will ask that, I'm not calling anybody out for that. I am so sorry. And I talked to them beforehand and I said it was a-okay. But I do want to request that bills be sent in as soon as possible so that I can get them out to you as soon as possible. Because if I send them to you like Monday for a Tuesday Senate meeting, y'all just do not have time to work with your constituents on how they would like to vote. Next, I also have office hours. I think I have put them up on the calendar. If I have not, shoot me an email and I will make sure to do that. And they are also Monday afternoon, but I am basically in there Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday afternoons anyway. And if you do not know where the GPSG office is, or student government in general, we are on the 2nd floor of, or I guess 3rd floor of the student union. Is 3509, I believe. And we are open whenever there's an OA there to have the door open, but we're also in and out. Just make an appointment with us if you need to talk to us. Lastly, I hope, lastly is next meeting. I was hoping it would be this meeting, but next meeting, the chancellor is supposed to come to our meeting and be a speaker. If you have questions for the chancellor that you would like to ask, please just pop me an email. If your constituents have burning questions, topics you would like the chancellor to speak on more directly, so that we are not asking the chancellor like hundreds of questions, or as many questions as he has time for after his speech, so that he can incorporate them into what he's talking about. Just pop me an email, or Ellen, do you have a question? Is there a microphone?
So there won't be an opportunity for us to ask like ad hoc questions in like an open forum setting?
At this moment, the answer is yes. I have not got a no to that. We will see. I am hoping for yes, but I'm also asking if you would like to have him talk about things in his speech rather than asking him after that. Referring questions to me now means that I can ask him to talk, specifically talk about those things. So like one of the things I'm going to ask is, okay, what's the deal with the airport property? Like, how is that going to be worked on? There has been in the master plans. I just dug out a document in the GPSG office from 2010 that was a development plan for the airport, and it's not happened yet. So stuff like that. Any questions about that? Also, if you do not know my email is just search up or type in Senior Vice President of GPSG, and you will find my email. Okay, Leah.
Am I allowed to make an announcement for finance really quickly?
Sure.
Since the bill passed, I will be opening up a separate town hall funding request form. It's going to be titled 2024 Town Hall Extension Funding Request Form. And so for those who haven't completed one, you can submit it there.
Okay. Lastly, and not at all least, we are going to ask the three nominees, if they can, to speak, and we'll give them a couple minutes each to speak on why they believe they should be on the Finance Committee, and then we will vote by majority, and if it comes down to that, we will vote by roll call. So are any members, I know one member is on Zoom, 2 members are on Zoom.
Let me.
Okay.
You're good.
We will start with Hashim as proxy.
Okay, this is Hashim Amir from economics. I am reading a short note that Jacob Ginn from sociology sent. Fellow senators, my name is Jacob Ginn from the Department of Sociology, and I'm running for the Finance Committee in the GPSG Senate. As a researcher at UNC, I understand the critical need for responsible and transparent financial management. I've honed these skills firsthand, meticulously managing budgets for complex research projects, ensuring every dollar is allocated effectively and accounted for. My experience with grant proposals, funding timelines, and expenditure tracking makes me uniquely qualified to serve on this committee. I'm committed to advocating for your financial need, for the GPSG's financial needs, maximizing the impact of student fees, and ensuring GPSG budget supports a vibrant and inclusive graduate community. I ask for your vote so I can put my experience to work for you.
Thank you. I also put it in the chat, but who would like to go next? We have 2 more senators.
I can go next.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Alcera, the senator for biochemistry and biophysics. I am a third running senator. As I had transitioned from one department to another, I am very happy to serve as a senator, to hear our voices, to make sure our voices are heard in every forum, from the department level all the way to now where we are as a group. And I believe that I am qualified to do this position because I feel like I know I have the financial abilities, such as being very meticulous and being able to check and balance. I also hear the needs and the concerns of my peers and put that first as well. I have integrity. I have loved to lead and I love to show and teach others. So I would hope that being in this position would not only be for this term, but also to just a moment to be able to just learn from the other peers within the group. So, yep, it's me.
Thank you. And lastly, Joel. Is Joel on Zoom? Okay. Well, then thank you for that.
Wait, hold on, let me put, wait.
Once you get the microphone, yes.
Yeah, sorry, Alana Despain, Public Policy. I'd also like to self-nominate for finance.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go ahead and speak for a minute or two if you'd like.
Yeah, okay. I would just like to express, I think I'm highly qualified to serve on the Finance Committee. In my previous work for nonprofits, I have multiple years of experience handling multi-million-dollar grants from state governments and other funders. I have extensive experience doing grant proposals, reviewing grant proposals, allocating funding to a multitude of nonprofits under the umbrella that we worked for. So I do have quite a solid experience in terms of managing these types of large budgets, and I'm eager to continue serving the UNC community. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Leah?
So Leah Frazier, Finance Committee Chair. Am I able to speak on behalf for Joel? Or give a recommendation on behalf for Joel? Your call.
Yes, you can go ahead because I know you talked with him about nominating himself.
Joel was Finance Committee Chair last year, so he does know the craziness that they're about to encounter next semester, in the nicest words, should I say. And so if I do give a recommendation for at least one person, it would be him, just because he knows how to handle things that happen next semester. And so even with the concerns of when we made the date for the original funding request for him to be due, like a month after, it's because nobody on finance was on finance last year. So it would be nice to have somebody that has had experience with that.
Thank you. And now we are going to move into discussion, unless people object. We don't? Okay.
I think now, normally the nominees would leave or I guess mute their computers. And then we just vote.
Okay. Then all nominees, if you could leave the room or mute your computer, we'll put in chat when we are done voting. And yes, and then we are going to go in order. And again, please just raise your hand on Zoom or raise your hand in person, Katie.
Point of clarification. So are there 2 open seats? Or 1 open seat?
Yes. Because,
I think you're going to be fine. Let's go ahead and assume. I think you're going to be okay.
so yes, we're going to operate under the assumption that there are 2 seats.
Okay. So then everybody will have 2 votes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I am going to. We're going to go first with. Remind me of the senator's name, Hashim. Jacob Ginn of Sociology. Please raise your hands if you vote aye. Okay. All done? Okay. Keep them raised. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 9 in person and 3 on Zoom. And I guess
there are more than 3 hands on Zoom.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay. They're helpfully spread over 2 pages. Okay. So we have 9 in person. I see 15 on Zoom. Can you confirm that, Lauren?
Let me count quickly.
So that would equal 24. Okay. You can go ahead and lower your hands in the room. Thank you. Okay, we are next going to go for Alana. Raise your hands if you would vote aye. Remember, you can only vote twice. Alana, the senator that just left. My apologies. $38. You can lower your hands. And next, we're going to be voting for Joel. Please raise your hands. 14 in person. 20 in total. What was that? I said 20 in total. And please remind me of our last, isn't it Brittany? Okay, please raise your hands for in aye for Brittany. Eight. You can lower your hands. And can you repeat those numbers to me? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Jacob received 24 votes, Brittany received 8, Alana received 38, and Joel received 20.
Okay, remind me of the
Top 2 are Jacob and Alana.
Thank you. Once Alana gets back in and I let them know, we can have a round of applause. Okay, so we voted for Alana and Jacob. So a round of applause, please. Before I ask if there are anything else, or before I ask to end this meeting, is there anything else that anybody has, announcements wise? Nia? Yep. Yep.
Wait, hold it. You gotta get this.
Thank you so much, Katie. So everyone, I'm Neil Sharma. I'm the Director of Graduate and Professional Student Government Academic Affairs. Really quickly, this survey, just want to mention, and thank you again, President Heat, for introducing this. This survey has a lot of institutional support from the provost to the Office of Institutional Research and Assessment. And my understanding is it'll decide where hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars will go in terms of what kind of generative AI resources we get for grad students, especially for professional development. So in other words, we decide if we want this support, and if so, if it goes to AI tutors, workshops, courses, you name it. So all that is decided through the survey. And what I want to stress is it's only open for 10 more days, after which point, the gavel will sound. And if we don't have a representative sample, we won't get what we're looking for. So please do share this survey. It has the chance to win 5 iPads, and this through GPSG and earlier, we have been working on this for almost a year now. So hoping to get a representative sample and hoping to get everybody's support. So with that, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm right here.
Thank you, Neil. And I will say one last thing before I ask. And I'm so sorry. I am working with the Board of Elections to try to get more senators with seats filled. We want as many senators as can be. And so they are going to be working on that. We also have the spring elections coming up in January and whenever that happens. And so we will keep you all aware of that. So if you know that your unit wants a second senator, please just email me. I'm going to operate under the assumption that every unit that has an election in the fall wants a second senator. If you don't want a second senator, you need to tell me. Are there any questions for that? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do I hear a second? Thank y'all, and I hope y'all have a wonderful evening.
It's a nice like little restaurant. Hey, by the way, if anyone wants to go to Dead Mule after, we're gonna go to Dead Mule and